Hi everyone! Now that Season 9 is out for a little bit, I want to give you some insights about the loot buffs that Blizzard had talked about before the season started. In case you weren't aware, they said that the ancestral item drop rate had been buffed depending on the torment level that you're in. So higher torment means more ancestral loot. Seems like a pretty reasonable system, right? I'm not sure why that wasn't in place before, but now we got it. So I gotta say, I did notice it quite a bit. So I've been blasting for something like around 30 hours now with this character. I'm Paragon 221 here, hardcore, let's call it SSF. We leveled in party up to 60, like the first 2 hours, and that was it. So everything is without trading, without party play, nothing. And well, I did get some pretty crazy stuff here. So I was gonna kind of mouse over this a little bit while I'm talking. And I can definitely feel the difference. I know I'm not really sure exactly how much the drop rates had been buffed and how exactly, for example, multi-GA drops worked beforehand. At least my understanding was that it's like a 10% chance to get 1 GA, and then 10% of those have 2 GA, and then 10% of those have 3 GA, and so on. But well, for example, I have a bunch of really crazy pieces here that I have not really seen in previous seasons, at least not in this time frame. For example, an amulet like this one here is absolutely cracked. This is like a ridiculous amulet. In fact, I don't think I've ever had an amulet on any Spiritborn since season 6 that was like this, with potent ranks and all that kind of good stuff here. So it's kind of wild, some of these drops that I got here. So maybe I was a little bit lucky, but I do have to say it does feel much better. And for example, for lair boss farming as well, I noticed where in the past, if you weren't farming Belial, which was pretty cracked in season 8, you would really get a lot of like greater affixes pretty much anywhere in any of the other boss lair encounters. But now sometimes I would do Marshan or Guiguar or any of those other smaller bosses, and even on Torment 3, for example, because I wasn't really quite ready yet for Torment 4, I would sometimes get multiple items that had a GA in one inventory fill. And that is definitely a novelty that I really welcome. So it seems like there is quite an upgrade here to the drop rates. As I said, I don't really have the hard numbers, but just comparing it to last season, I did get a lot more really good stuff here pretty early on, with not really a lot of boss grinding. If you have some anecdotal evidence or even some data, that would be really nice to see. Like, I'm sure there's probably some people that are kind of comparing the before and after, but it was just kind of like a little note of positivity that I was trying to share here, basically, just to give you a bit of an idea. It does feel a lot better, I think, and it looks like Blizzard really took a bunch of the feedback to heart that we had from season 8, where especially boss farming felt kind of prohibitively, you know, crushing, I would say. Even for example, I was doing something upwards of 1,000 plus, maybe 1,500 plus boss kills or something like that back in season 8. All, you know, farmed the boss mats, killed the bosses, and then out of that came like, I don't know, 50 Belials maybe or something like that. That was like the entire total count that I had back in season 8, for example, playing as like a SSF guy. Where other people just kind of like spam them non-stop from the dupes and so on, and that is already happening again. So Belial is, you know, going like, you know, crazy basically on especially softcore trade economy. But I did notice as well, for example, that the Belial drop rates are up a lot as well. So Belial spawns quite often. I've killed him a few times already, and I still have 17 Betrayer's Husk. So this is almost like 20% of the total that I had last season already, just from like, I don't know, some boss kills. I didn't do much, like an hour maybe of bossing, and this is what I got. And this was again on Torment 3. You're gonna get more on Torment 4. So that's pretty cool to see, and it is definitely very realistic to grind out the items that you need, get even like multiple GAs on your stuff, on the legendaries and on the uniques, and also, you know, get the mythics and all that kind of good stuff. So for now, this is just kind of what I want to share here. The gameplay loop is largely unchanged. So you go farm, for example, Kuras Under City for the Titan tributes here. These are really good to get the boss mats. And then you go farm all of the small bosses, then you farm all of the medium bosses, and then you go farm Belial. So that is largely the same, but the drop rates are way up. And the same applies everywhere else with the legendaries, for example. Pit, for example, is usually my go-to farming area if I try to get certain specific item slots. So gambling amulets, for example, gambling rings. So these kind of like hard to get pieces, I usually go there. And you also notice there is a huge buff here, especially in Torment 4. And if you go into the pit, it may be even beyond the Torment 4 scaling. I'm not 100% sure about that yet, though. Either way, that's it for this little video here. Let me know what you have noticed, or if you have anything else to share. That would be kind of exciting. And for now, I'll keep you guys posted with more stuff from Season 9. So hope you enjoyed this. Good luck in the season, and see you guys next time.